You're listening to the Scaling Wellness Podcast, the podcast dedicated to sharing the what, why, and how of scaling your wellness practice, as well as sharing inspiring stories of how others did it themselves. I'm your host, DJ Turner, author, agency owner, houseplant lover, and your go-to guy for scaling your wellness practice. If you're looking for tips on how to grow your team, book more clients, and get out of the day-to-day in your practice, you've come to the right place. Now sit back, relax, and let's get into the episode. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Scaling Wellness Podcast. Today, I sit down with Pallas Hutchison. Now, Pallas is a proud single parent and enthusiastic business owner of the esteemed Oasis Massage, which offers results-driven therapeutic massage sessions and has done so since 2005. Now, located in West Dennis, Massachusetts, Pallas and her team strive to provide quality services to each of their clients. Now, she's got a really interesting background. A very adventurous musical journey fueled by lots of passion and exploring different areas of entertainment. Pallas has a background in DJing and singing in a band and hosting karaoke nights at the bar. And all of this came together to lead to an unforeseen career change. She took it one day at a time and found herself in massage therapy, where she moved forward and built her massage therapy business from the ground up. She's got a really cool background and generally is just a really interesting person. I think this episode you're going to learn a lot, especially if you're someone who is in that process of trying to figure out how to put together your small team. Pallas, we talked a little about in the episode, had a larger team and throughout the pandemic scaled back down. She's got this perspective of having a team of a little bit larger size and also seeing the small size and starting from, by yourself in this ground up. So in it, we get into what she considers important when it's time to hire or not hire someone, some of the benefits that she's given her therapist, like how to come in and do actual proper benefits for massage employees. We talked about some of the most important resources that are needed if you want to set up your business. She talks about marketing and what are some of the worst times that you can do marketing. We talk about revenue share programs and what she thinks about that and how they can or cannot benefit you. The difference between a market up to market down approach, some of the important mindsets you need to have as you're going and scaling your business, and what she did and how and why she got audited several times in just a few years. So this is a really fun conversation. Pallas is a really fun and cool person, and I think you guys are going to enjoy. So without any further ado, here's my interview with Pallas. All right, everyone, welcome back as I sit down here today with Pallas of Oasis Massage. So thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really excited to dive into this conversation. One of the first things I always like to do is just get some context for everyone. So can you just describe what you've got going on at Oasis, the team, the space, what services you offer, and just what you guys are all about?
So I opened up in 2005, so I've been doing it 17 years. The current space is 2 treatment rooms. One of them is big enough for a couples massage, but we don't really do a lot of that. I primarily position us as a pain management clinic. There are 4 massage therapists, including myself. I have 2 front desk staff. We offer reflexology and Reiki as well. So it's primarily a massage practice, and we focus on the pain management aspect of it.
So I always like to know about the people as well, not just the business. Obviously, we're going to dive into it in this conversation, but I wanted to ask, I was doing my research and I noticed that singing and songwriting is something that you like to participate in, including karaoke. I was just really curious. So, what place does music, especially song, hold in your life?
I'm definitely a music junkie. When I started my massage practice, I had 3 jobs. I worked at a deli, I DJ'd, so I actually went to bars and I ran karaoke shows. I've done music trivia, music bingo. I sang with a band for 5 years. So music is really important to me, and I was able to use that as a way of making money while I got my business off the ground. It's also like, we do massage, so it's pretty much Zen stuff all day long. And there's nothing more cathartic than just going out to a bar and screaming Zeppelin. You gotta have the balance. So I can't be Zen all day. Like, I appreciate that yoga is really good and people need that for flexibility, but that's not my workout of choice. I'm Zen all day. I need to throw people across the room. I love my martial arts. I love my Led Zeppelin. So that's kind of where music plays a part for me. It's my outlet that balances out.
And so what was it that got you into massage and wellness to begin with?
So that's kind of funny. It was an accident. I fidget a lot. I don't sit still. You'll probably notice I'll shuffle and shift in my chair a bit. It's just, I've always been fidgety. My cousins would sit on the floor in front of me at the holidays and I would just rub their shoulders. And one year, a friend of mine, or not friend, my cousin, Milena, was here from California. And she's like, that's what I do for a living, right? Like, nope. Didn't occur to me that that was a job. So then I started looking into that because I didn't really know what I wanted to do or where I fit. And the longer I've been in the field, the more it resonates with me in different ways. But yeah, I definitely fell into it by mistake because I fidget.
So you come into massage. At what point did this vision or like how did the idea for Oasis come about?
So I'm a single parent. That's a big part of like my identity. And I wanted to be able to parent and be involved in my kids' lives. I wanted to go to every parent teacher conference. I wanted to go to every concert and everything that they chaperone field trips until they were, too embarrassed to be seen with mom. So working for myself gave me that flexibility of my schedule once I got going far enough. So that was really important. So that's why I work for myself as opposed to finding a job somewhere else. But what I want the business to be is that bridge between like the Eastern and Western medicine concepts. They both play a role. One's more proactive, one's more reactive. But my daughter actually designed our logo. It's I don't know how to describe it. She made a lotus with an Om symbol and like the heartbeat line. So it's really trying to be the gap between the two. So a lot of times clients come in, they've been giving this really scary diagnosis. But if you break down the words with them, like, well, this means this means this means this. It doesn't mean you're dying. It doesn't mean you have a tumor, whatever it is. It's a lot of times doctors don't take the time to have that conversation with them. So people will, because part of our training is medical terminology, anatomy. So there's a big, scary, long name of a muscle. It's just a muscle. But a lot of people don't know that. So being able to like educate clients on that. Does that answer the question?
I know it does. So it's easy to look at how things are today, and we're going to kind of walk through and bridge some of the pieces. What did the first year of business look like for you? Can you just paint us a picture of what that was like?
So when I graduated massage school, I was DJing and working at a deli, and my boss at the deli is just a phenomenal human being. He is amazing. Charlie, I can never say enough good things about. I went to him and I was like, this is what I do. This is what I went to school for. How do we make this work? And he's like, okay, you're going to take one day and you're going to book it and then you're going to work for me the rest. And when that day's full, come back and we'll talk again. So a couple months, I built up that one day. So it was fully booked. Talked to him again. He's like, okay, we're going to give you 2 days for that and then work for me the rest of the time. So he really allowed me to build my business one day at a time, out of pocket. I didn't have to do any loans. I didn't have to borrow money from anyone. It was just, I was given that gift of being able to open gradually. So he owned a franchise and the franchise got bought out. So we ended up shifting. And the last conversation we had about like schedule wise was he's like, so we have X amount of hours. Everybody's going to take an hour cut. Or if you're ready, you can go do the massage full time and I'll divide your hours up between everybody else. So that's what we did. And he's like, you have a job here anytime. If something goes sideways, you're always welcome to come back. But that was the push I needed to go from part-time and, get rid of the training wheels, so to speak. But not everybody is lucky enough to have a Charlie. So.
Actually, I think that's a really amazing opportunity that you had and something that I think if anyone should even try for that, just, you built your business in the beginning one day at a time, not this all or nothing. And you see you're able to transition through. So I want to kind of bridge some of these pieces. Obviously, this is a very high level question, but when we think about the end of that first year to now here we are, 16 years later, can you just walk us through what some of the high points or major milestones have been in this process?
Switching from like a paper booking system where people had to call me to an online platform was huge. Another big milestone was bringing on another massage therapist and front desk staff. So being able to, there was enough demand that I needed more people and I needed someone to take over the phone. When I first started, my first cell phone was the business number. So probably the biggest thing was I bought myself a new personal cell phone. The business number is still the first cell phone I ever had. It's still a cell phone. It's still the same phone number, but I got like another one. So trying to like separate the personal and the business was like, oh, I actually need to do this. I have enough clients that it warrants a separate phone and a separate number to kind of create that work-life balance. So that was a pretty big milestone.
So I want to look at, I always love these these change points. And one of them I'm really interested in is that transition from the business of just you to having other people. So at what point in the business did you make your first hire? And, was it a therapist first, the front desk first, or did you do both at the same time?
It was kind of both at the same time. I hired my first employee in 2011. So that was 6 years in. It took 6 years to like fully build up my own schedule, and I was still getting a lot of phone calls. A friend of mine was pregnant and looking for work, and she's like, I don't really know what to do. I'm like, well, I could use a little bit of help on the desk if you want to start doing that. So it was an opportunity that presented itself that helped her. It helped me. It was kind of a win-win. I wasn't sure how much I could afford to pay yet. I wasn't sure how many hours I actually needed, and she really just needed anything at that point. And she's like, if we bring on somebody else, I can do a little bit of both. So the first space that we had was just one massage room. So either I was working or someone else was, and then we had one person in the desk reception area. So we were there for 6 years that way. And then the staff changed as people grow in their own personal life and they change directions. So the staff has definitely changed over the years. But right now we have one of the biggest upgrades, I think, for this space is I have washer dryer at my office. I don't have to bring the laundry home. I can just do it there, and it's amazing. And I can kind of hand that off. That's part of the front desk stuff now. So just trying to slowly build.
And I want to ask even more about, for you, we had a chance to, have a conversation before sitting down to record. And I remember one of the things in our conversation before was just talking about, okay, understanding if bringing on staff is going to be the right choice, trying to figure out what are you going to get out of it. What's it going to do for you as the owner? Just at this point in time, so you weren't sure how many hours you had available. You weren't sure how much you're going to be able to pay someone. What were you thinking at this time that said, okay, yes, let me go ahead and bring someone else on? Because a lot of people who just say, I'm full, I'm done, this is the end of it. These clients calling me can just go somewhere else.
I'm very ambitious. I would love to retire young. I would love to work because I want to. I would love to cherry pick the clients that actually need me as opposed to the ones that could go to see anybody. So they need my specific combination of skills. So being able to do that, I need enough clients that need that. And I need something to do with the other clients that are still awesome people and I like working with, and I don't want to leave them high and dry after I've built these relationships with them. So bringing on other staff to kind of, okay, this client, we've worked through most of their issues. They just need a maintenance thing now. We can transition them to somebody who's maybe a little newer to the field, doesn't have the same specializations because they don't need it anymore. So bringing on staff allows me to pick who I see a little bit more. It allows me to generate a little bit more income for the business, which will be able to, I can turn around and offer that as benefits to my staff as well as myself. Being self-employed, you don't get benefits. There's no safety net. So we just started paid time off and sick time. We have a retirement plan now. So there's all these things that as an individual you don't have. And also as an individual, you don't have the resources. If you're sick, there's no one to call. There's no one to fill in your shift and your clients are kind of left. So sorry, we got to reschedule you. Whereas if you have staff, if something happens and I'm sick, or if something happens and one of my kids was sick and I needed to do something, I have somewhere to put them in the schedule that's not making them wait another month for something that's completely outside of their control. Because I didn't want to punish clients. And I feel like that's what I was doing out of necessity.
Now, I won't claim you to be an expert in all versions of employee benefits, but I do want to talk about how you've set things up and how you've come to it. I think especially when it comes to massage, it's something that people work at jobs that don't have benefits, then they become self-employed and don't have benefits, and then maybe they grow their business and have employees. And this is something that is just, it might as well be a foreign language. You're like, yeah, that's a thing people do over there, but it just doesn't exist here. And so for you and your business, I'm going to make the first assumption of one of them, something that you value, that you find is important for yourself and for your team members to have. After going that step, where did you start? Who were the people you talked to or the resources you looked out to be able to set that up in your business?
A good accountant, a good attorney with a specialization in employment law. Not all business attorneys do employment law. Some of them just do business structures and things like that. I've talked to both. So just making sure what you're offering is what you're allowed to offer. You have to do it fairly even across the board. You can't play favoritism and make sure that nothing is coming across that way. So the benefits are relatively new. We restructured our pay scale completely when we reopened after the pandemic. And instead of doing commission only for the massage therapists, to add paid time off, it's accrual based. So I can offer it to full-time or part-time. And it's based on how many hours they work. So they get an hourly rate, and the hourly rate is guaranteed for their shifts, whether or not they're booked. If they're not booked, I'm still paying them. They get a smaller commission percentage when they are booked. And sometimes with new hires, that's a big challenge because they're used to, well, I get 40 to 60%. Like, well, you're not getting that here, but this is why. And not all of them see that bigger picture. My income probably went up about 10 grand just making that change. My staff's income went up, the full-time staff went up about 10 grand making that change for the first year. And that was just adding sick time and paid time off. We added the retirement plan 3 months ago. I don't have a retirement plan prior to this. I'm old enough where I should have one. I should have some sort of savings. And if I want to retire young, I'm way behind the curve. So if I wanted it for me, my staff are going to want it too. So I talked to my accountant. He recommended somebody who does benefits that he's worked with before. My accountant also owns the same payroll company that I use. By no means a numbers person. I pay them to do their job because they're better at it and they're less likely to mess up. So I talked to that guy. We had a meeting. The business pays some of the fees. The employees pay some of the fees involved. It's not that expensive. I think it's $25 a year per person initial setup. And then it was $25 a year per person maintenance fees. And that was pretty much it as far as fees. And then employees they had to meet individually with the benefits guy, the retirement guy, and he filled out paperwork with them, submitted it to me as the plan sponsor, business owner, and then I sent it to the payroll company. They do the deductions for me. I do not have to math, no math involved. You just enter the numbers into the plan and it puts it into the retirement account. So I don't have to think so much once it's set up. It's a challenge to set it up, but it's easy to maintain.
So thank you for elaborating on that. It's just something that I think, one of my goals with this podcast is to really just have more of the conversations that people aren't having are really hard to find, especially in this industry. And so looking back to the business as a whole, obviously, I think having benefits now has shifted the way employees see the business and what's available to them. I'm curious about your approach to hiring as well as creating team culture, creating a space where you get the right people in and they want to stay.
So that's a challenge. It's constantly ongoing. I've had some really great employees. I've had some really great therapists that weren't good fits for my team. There are people that I would not rehire. There are people that I would rehire that moved on for other reasons. It's everything that I ask my staff to do is something that I have done or will do. So I don't feel like anyone is really above the other. I really do try to make it a family style business. I've had employees that needed rides from work because their car died. So one of the other staff will go get them. If I needed my kids picked up, somebody would get it if I was in session. It's always been that kind of all ships rise with the tide mentality. I don't know if that's just like a Cape Cod thing or if that's a phrase that other places use. We're a very boat heavy community here. So that's a pretty common phrase. Just trial and error, personality, skill set, goals.
We'll be back with this episode in just a moment. But first, let me ask you a question. Does it ever feel like you're stuck on some sort of business treadmill? Despite all the hard work you put in, it feels like you aren't actually going anywhere. And at first, growing your practice and filling it with clients was everything you ever dreamed of. But now, the day-to-day of your business is starting to almost feel like a never-ending nightmare. You know you love your clients, you've maybe even built a team, and you can't imagine giving any of it up, yet at the same time, you feel like you just can't seem to escape. If that sounds like you, I want to offer you an alternative. I like to call it Wellness Practice Freedom. It's a place where your practice gives you more than just money. When you get to this point, you're no longer the main engine in the vehicle, and instead, you finally get to act like the driver. And most importantly, you'll be in a place where you can work as little or as much as you'd like, because you know that your practice is built in a way that it can thrive without you. Sound interesting? Then I want to invite you to take the journey to achieving wellness practice freedom. During this call, we'll dive into exactly what freedom looks like for you, the changes that you need to take, and what's going to allow you to step back from your business without worrying about your income or everything falling apart. Ready to get started? Then head over to my calendar at www.scalingwellness.com/chat. Again, that's www.scalingwellness.com/chat. Now, let's get back to the episode. And so I wanted to ask, and I mean, this is different for every single practice and every owner and what modalities and all of these things. But when you're looking at hiring, what have you found to be a good fit? Is it a skill or a certain attitude, or are there certain things that really stand out to you as, okay, this is someone who is a good fit for us?
So the newest hire, he joined us the beginning of July, so he's relatively new. Full-time first male massage therapist I've been able to hire, which is great. There's just not as many in our area. For whatever reason, it's always been a very female-heavy business. So now we're kind of balancing that out. He's awesome. Personality-wise, he got along great. He has the same kind of approach to massage. He has a lot of similar styles, not necessarily the same, but he's a good fit. The one thing that for me was a little bit of a flag during the first interview process was he wanted to go out on his own. So when I offered him the job and I told him point blank, like, my goal is to make you so happy here, you're not going to want to leave, because I don't want to invest in someone who's like, I don't want to build your career and then have you go off and leave. And then I'm stuck right back where I started. So the goal for me is to build you up here, but make it so much worthwhile that it doesn't make sense for you to leave. I don't know if that's the right approach or if that came out the way I wanted it to, but that's all right.
No, I really like that approach. I think it's something that, especially when we talk about massage, there's a lot of reasons why someone would or should go into practice for themselves. But I think now we're kind of looking at way further in their career in terms of, okay, now I'm making decisions about hiring people. Having a place where people don't want to leave makes sense, in the sense that people go into private practice because there's boxes they want to check off or things that they want that they can't get out of their job. If they can get it in their job, then it would make sense to just stay employed somewhere. And so in a similar vein, you're not responsible for just yourself in the sense of making sure there's enough clients coming in the door. At this stage in your business, what's your approach to marketing?
So this is going to come probably as a left turn. I don't really do a lot of marketing. I almost never market in the summer. We're a very seasonal place in the summer and it doubles our population. And I don't really want the tourists. They're good to fill in like gaps in the schedule or last minute appointment options, but they're not the bread and butter of our business. It's not as fulfilling for me to have a one-off client that I'm never going to see again. I want the people that are here year round. I'd spend more of my time paying attention to the off-season market because they're the ones who are here 12 months of the year, not 3. So we do Facebook a little bit. We monitor, the different review sites and make sure our information is up to date. We share our different products and things like that or services, and promote different things a little bit through Instagram, but I don't even know how to use that. My front desk does that. I don't have an Instagram at all. The business does, no idea how to use it. But we'll share reviews. The software that I have has a widget that I embedded onto the landing page of our website that automatically collects reviews from clients. So the first thing people see when they go to our website is the logo and then a little block that is full of current reviews. And it automatically collects them from people that we've seen after the appointment. So it does like a follow-up. How did we do? So that I think is the best marketing. Everything else just directs to the reviews. Word of mouth is so much better. I've tried radio advertising. I've paid for different magazines and different, like in the Golfer's Digest. That's not the specific one. I can't remember the name of it, but just different like marketing things around the Cape that's usually aimed at tourism and things like that. And the return on that has been awful. Usually it costs me money and I'll put like a coupon in for $10 off your first appointment, something like that, just so I can track who's coming from that. I've never had a single person redeem one. I've tried doing like the Groupons and the Limelights and the shared revenue programs. Those are okay depending on how you go about it, and the time of year you've run it is very particular, and the terms need to be very clear. You need to understand exactly how much you're giving away when you do that. I did a couple of those when I first started just by myself, just to kind of put some oomph behind the client list before I really had anyone. And a lot of those clients, they're looking for the deal. They're not looking for a long term. They're never going to pay full price. They always want some sort of discount. And it's, if that's the kind of, it's a market up to market down kind of approach, which is not consistent. It's not client loyalty. They're loyal to the price, not to the practice. So it's just different.
Yeah, it is. I understand. It's something. So I think the first 130 some odd episodes of this podcast are almost entirely dedicated to marketing and that sort of phase of business. And that is something that we see as well, as people become loyal to the price, not to the business itself. And I love, if anyone wants to go check, we'll have a link, but you can see, I think I just checked because I was curious. So it's 670 reviews. You can see obviously not all 670 are right there in front of you, but you can see like the 10 most recent, and it shows you how many total reviews that there are, which I think is really amazing. I wanted to shift the conversation just a little bit because you'd mentioned, your front desk taking care of the social media. You don't really know what's going on there. And so by now at this point, I'm curious about how your role as an owner has changed in terms of what your day-to-day or your responsibilities look like, as well as just how your approach or mindset about business has changed as the business has grown.
So what I'm trying to do, when you have a business, you have two big things. You work in the business, so that's providing whatever service you're trained for. For me, it's massage. So working as a massage therapist is working in the business. And then working on the business is all of the businessy side of things. That is management. And they're two very, very different things. For me, time blocking was huge on that. I like doing the massage better. I can do the other stuff and I don't mind it. I like doing the massage. So my goals, I have 2 front desk people right now. There's a third one I might bring on as kind of a per diem float to cover people's vacations and things like that. And that one's actually my oldest daughter. If she wants extra shifts, I can kind of do that. But trying to step back from the management, and I'm learning to delegate, learning to kind of let go of control a little bit, since, I have to trust my staff to do the jobs I hired them for. My right hand, Ashley, is the compliance officer in my state. Part of our regulations is we have one person designated for each establishment to make sure everyone there is following the law regarding the industry. I'm not that person for my business anymore. I gave that role to Ashley and she does that. We also have Melissa is training to be the office manager. So she's been with us for several months now. And as time goes by, I just give her a couple more responsibilities, take it off of my plate and put it onto hers until she's fully managing and I'm hands-on. That's what I want to be. That's the fun part. That's where I really get the fulfillment and I'm good at that.
And so in this same vein, you've grown and changed, the business has grown and changed. Are there any particular skills that you think people need to learn, or skills that you've had to go out and learn when it comes to, growing your practice and running a practice of this size?
So I think the biggest thing you need is the dedication and the focus to do it, which is something that can't be learned. So if you're not 100% sure that's what you want to be doing, wait until you are sure you want this responsibility, because marketing can be learned. Finance can be learned. Management skills can be learned. All of that stuff can be learned. You cannot learn the motivation. You cannot learn the drive to make it through. And trust your team. Find people that you trust as resources, whether it's your accountant, your attorney, your staff, your colleagues. Having that group of people, that core group, can help you, because you don't have to know everything. One person is never going to know everything. Be a specialist to someone else. If you're really good at the marketing stuff and you have a friend who's really good at the finance, put your heads together. Be a sounding board for each other. That's the skill set. You have to have the drive to do it. You can learn the skills or find them. You can't find the drive.
And I want to ask you, because I think there's no business or business owner that I've met that hasn't made some form of mistake or at least had a hard lesson that they've learned. When you think back, is there anything that stands out that you would say you really learned a lot from?
Yes. So when I first brought on employees, I structured as an LLC. I was trying to separate the personal from the business. I did not do my homework with the accountant or the attorney that I was using at the time. I was audited 5 times in 3 years. And I found out after the pandemic that the business wasn't even set up properly for 9 years. And that's a very expensive mistake to fix. So we've restructured again with a different attorney. It's done properly. The accountant that I have now, and he fixed the mistakes of the previous one. So I'm very much loyal to my team. I did not do enough research on the people that I was working with originally. I trusted them to do their job, and I did not find the right people for that job. So trying to untangle that mess was a financial and legal nightmare, and there was a lot of gin involved. Trying to talk myself down.
And so looking forward, you've taken the business this far. What is the next step for you? What are you working on now?
So I just finished a CPT course. So I'm a personal trainer on top of being a massage therapist, and I'm working on a nutrition coach certification as well. I really want to take the business to a full wellness center. I want to buy a permanent location. When I do that, it's going to be a separate legal entity that owns the property, and then the business will be a separate legal entity, and then I will be a third, so kind of like a little tripod. So that way, if something goes sideways, people can either go after the property, the business, or me, but they can't do anything. So I'm never left without at least 2 legs on the ground. But trying to go more, I'm very much a klutz, and I swear this ties in. I have broken ankles, I have dislocated a shoulder, I've torn meniscus. I'm very much a klutz. I've hurt almost every joint in my body at least once. And I have a pretty good sense of humor about it. But going back to yoga before I go back to martial arts was supposed to be a stepping stone of building my strength back up. But the first time I broke my ankle, when I went back to yoga, there was no one to help me modify the poses to be that bridge from you're done with PT, now you're just off into the rest of the world. There's a step missing, and trying to get people like, how do you modify for different conditions? How do you modify for different injuries? How do you recover from them? It's after the PT, but before you're just free range. So I really want to be able to fulfill that road. Some more yoga therapy, not just yoga. And I'm just using that one because it's a specific example, but that idea.
So this has been a fantastic conversation. I've got a few more short questions. They don't need to have short answers. One of the first ones I'm just curious about. So you have a background in martial arts. Is there a particular martial art or style that is a favorite, or even just a single move that you just really enjoy?
So I have taken Taekwondo, Tang Sudo. There's a little bit of boxing mixed in, and I recently bought myself a batleth, which is super nerdy. It is a Klingon weapon from Star Trek. So I actually have a book on Klingon martial arts that I am learning. But martial arts, it helps with body mechanics. It helps with power. It helps with stances. And you can use those stances in massage. You can get deeper work and have better body mechanics around the massage table by using the skills the same generation or the same force generation you have for a punch, you can use for a massage stroke. So it's the same you're learning to control your muscles, you're learning to control the leverage. So they really do tie in really nicely together. So that has probably helped my massage career. And also being a massage therapist and knowing where the attachments are makes me a better martial artist because I know exactly what I'm aiming for. Like that deltoid attachment, you hit that right with a ridge hand, their whole hand is going to go numb and they're going to drop whatever weapon they have. So the two really tie in and they're weirdly symbiotic.
And so as you think about your own business and personal growth journey, is there any resource that stands out as being particularly helpful or a favorite of yours? A book, a course, a person, a podcast, whatever, something or someone that stands out to you?
Charlie, my first boss at the deli, was an amazing resource. Even after I wasn't working for him anymore, I could pop in, grab lunch, and he could sit down with me and it's like, this is what I want to do. How do I do it? Or where do I go with this? And he was just willing to be that resource. And he had so much more experience than I did. So really cultivating that network and knowing who in your network is able to provide that for you. My cousin Christopher also runs a business. He was also an amazing resource and I could pester him and he's exceptionally tolerant of my multitude of questions. I want to do this. How did you do it? Like, where do I go from here? And I'm very obnoxious in that I will ask hundreds and hundreds of questions. And it's not always, people aren't always patient enough to answer them, but I'd rather ask too many questions and get it right.
And are there any final words of advice that you have for our listeners, especially, if they're wanting to make that jump from a business of one to a business of many?
It's scary, but it's worth it. It's a scary jump. And if you're not ready, it's okay. You can wait. You can set yourself up for it. It's just think about it like playing dominoes. You don't have to set it all up in order, but when you're ready, it'll all fall into place.
So thank you again so much for spending the time to sit down and have this conversation. If someone wants to learn more about you or get connected with you, where's the best place for them to go?
So the website is probably the best way. We also have a business Facebook page that you're welcome to chat with. It might take a minute to get from my front desk staff to get to me, but just put like attention Pallas and I'll respond eventually. I have set days a week that I do desk work. So.
All right. So thank you so much. And thanks everyone who's watching, listening, however it is you're consuming this content. That's all for this episode. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. The Scaling Wellness Podcast is hosted and produced by yours truly, DJ Turner. Administration, guest research, editing, and associate production by Helen C. For highlights and updates, follow us on Instagram at Scaling Wellness. And for more information on how to scale your practice up and get out of the day-to-day, head to www.scalingwellness.com.